So in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can earn over 100% APR consistently and passively through a DeFi portfolio that has relatively low risk. This is the same strategy that I'm currently using in my portfolio to do a 157% APR on just 2 of the positions cumulatively, and has generated me $852 in earnings over the past 10 days or so. And before the haters go to the comments and say, but what about divergence and impermanent loss and whatever, right? Look at this number right here called versus hodl. This represents my difference between being in the LP versus holding in the market. I can take advantage of market opportunities like this in my portfolio, beat holding in the market, and of course earn high APRs that are printing me over 10% per month. But we're going to start small today. We're going to start at 100% APR, and obviously that can be ramped up depending on your risk tolerance, depending on what assets you take exposure to, depending on how active you want to be. There's so many different factors, but we'll start at 100%, and I'm going to show you my strategic framework. And if at any point in time you guys want some support from myself directly and my team, feel free to let us know. There's a link right below this video to apply to work with us, where we'll help you streamline the process and help you get it right the first time, as opposed to wasting thousands of dollars just making mistakes. And by the way, the process that I'm going to follow in today's video is our DeFi formula. This is basically our process for building out portfolios. So I'm giving you the sauce here. The question is if you guys actually want to implement with us or try to do this on your own, basically. Anyways, one of the first things that we do when creating a portfolio is we blueprint, right? So this comes down to creating your allocation timeline, setting your goals, selecting different position types, finding crypto assets, and evaluating those assets, right? And obviously within our DeFi formula, we use documents just like this, like a workbook that you can fill in, but I'm going to show you how you can create that for yourself. So with that being said, the first thing that we need to map out is our initial goals. There's a couple things that I like to look at. Number one is going to be monthly income. Number 2 is going to be APR. These two right here are going to be directly correlated. And number 3 is going to be time spent managing, basically. Monthly income is pretty simple. What's our goal to make on a monthly basis? I typically like to set a 30-day goal, I like to set a 60-day goal, and I like to set a 90-day goal. The reason why is because we always ramp up. We don't just try to get capital deployed as fast as possible. We ramp things up. So we had a client come in a couple weeks ago. He had $40 million in crypto, and he planned to deploy $1 million that week into DeFi. While $1 million is a lot, it's not all of his crypto assets, and he did plan to deploy a lot more than $1 million over time into DeFi. But even when we're talking about $10,000 portfolios, we start by deploying $2,000 or so, then we go $5,000, and then we get up to the $10,000, right? So our monthly income is going to depend on our allocation timeline, but after 90 days, assuming I'm fully deployed by then, I want to put how much I want to make per month. So let's just say $10,000 per month in this instance, because imagine I have $100,000 in this scenario. That's also going to bring me to my next point, which is my allocation timeline, basically. So my allocation timeline is when am I going to allocate? So we like to do 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days, basically. So my 30-day goal is going to be 25K. My 60-day goal is going to be to get up to 50K. My 90-day goal is going to be to get up to 100K, basically. We'll call that my allocation timeline. I highly recommend you guys follow along. My APR, this is going to be my overall goal. So in this instance, we want to do a 100% APR. Now, if we're deploying 50K right here, ideally we want to make 5K per month, and then over here we want to make, 2.5K per month. But the thing is, we have to realize that we are ramping things up. So perhaps initially we are doing 1.5K, right? Going for the low APRs, but ultimately safe stuff. Get comfortable with the safe stuff and then move on to the riskier stuff and ramp up that APR, basically. So then my next goal is going to be roughly $4,000 or so. And then we're looking at $10,000 on a monthly basis. And then my time spent managing, right? Again, I like to do this over the course of 30, 60, and 90 days, because in the short term, as you're learning this stuff, it's going to take longer. So we're going to say like 6 hours per week, let's just say. And then over here, maybe this is 5 hours per week because you're still learning. And then over here, this is probably going to be like 3 hours per week. Hey, I still spend 3 hours per week on my portfolio. I find that's a very, very good balance. And I do returns like this, 157% APR. I also got a CBBTC paired with Sol position. It's doing 60% APR, but it lowers my overall portfolio risk because I have multiple positions. And then assets. We're not going to cover finding assets in today's video, but if you guys do want me to make a video on that, make sure to drop a like, subscribe when notifications turned on, and let me know down below in the comments, as well as any other videos that you guys want to see, so that way I know to make a video just like that. We use something called the VRM for evaluating assets, but the goal here is to have a solid list of high utility assets, not meme coins, that you want to deploy into liquidity pools. I'm going to give you my list: BTC, ETH, Sol, Link, Aave, GRT, Aether, Ondo, Desync, Render, Pith, FET. These are basically assets that I currently have huge allocations in my portfolio to right now, or of course I have in liquidity pools right now basically. But this is our initial document for just planning things out. Then what we do is actually move on into metrics finance. This is now entering the construct phase where we go out, we find positions, we select them using something that we call the Fate framework at Builder Wealth. I'm going to dive into the high level overview of that. We go out, we find the ranges, which is the range framework at Builder Wealth. We go out and we evaluate the actual positions to make sure that they are a good fit for the portfolio. That's the validation framework, otherwise known as valid framework. So those are the three main frameworks we focus on within Construct. When we're on the Discover page, this is going to allow us to see a list of all these different liquidity pools across multiple exchanges and networks. I segment. I look at these exchanges and these networks to start with, and usually what I'm doing is filtering by assets. So first, let's just say ETH. I'm looking at some of these assets over here, like let's just say BTC, Sol, Link. So if I type in ETH as this must include asset, and I type in BTC, and then Sol, and then Link, and then Aave, and then Aether, and then GRT, and then any other asset, basically, it's going to show me ETH paired with BTC, ETH paired with Sol, so on and so forth, basically. So it's going to limit my overall pools. We always look at fundamentals first. And I apologize if I'm going a little bit fast here, but there is a lot of information to cover in a short period of time, and that's exactly why we have extrapolated all of this into in-depth processes and systems at Builder Wealth. Anyways, once we've done that, we're going to start to look for these pools over here and look for stuff that actually looks like it makes sense. Typically, my APR, I'm always looking higher than 30%. And yes, 30% does not mean 30%. 30% can easily become 60 once you start to adjust that range. Just keep that in mind. So I'm going to favorite Ethereum to Link. I'm going to start to go down this list as well. I'm going to favorite, let's just say Aave to Ethereum. That looks pretty solid. I'm going to go over here to the second page. This Ethereum to Aether also looks pretty solid. We got Desync to Ethereum. I'm just going to keep on favoriting pools, basically. Simple as that. And then I'll go in and I'll look at Orca and Radium on the Solana network, right? And then I'll look at Velodrome and Aerodrome on Base and Optimism. But essentially, we're going to start with these ones, and I'm just going to load up a single position to start with, and we're going to go from there, basically. So let's just say we wanted to do Ethereum to Link, and we were to dive into this. Well, the first thing we do are pre-simulation steps. I always put a deposit amount of what I plan to deposit in the pool. So maybe I'm doing, say, $20,000 or so in this pool to start with, right? And then after that, I always look at the volume history, see if we're doing consistent volume. You can see our average daily volume, 20 million. Recently, we are doing 10 million. So this APR is going to get cut in half. But of course, once we adjust this range, we can start to see what we're actually going to get. So this has a 93% correlation, so I can go with the tighter range. Ideally, I set this at the 30-day high and low to start with, and then from there, adjust depending on the current trend. Current trend is a lot more chop. It's going sideways, so we can go with a much tighter range. Something like this. And then I adjust the range based on how much of each asset I want to have. So in this case, I want to have a little bit more Link. I think it's going to outperform Ethereum. So I'll do maybe 155 as my max price, and I'll adjust this min price to something like 130 to get me 56% Link. That gives me 149% APR. But if we narrow this down to, let's just say, the past couple of days, so since February 8th, so let's just say 6 days, it's going to give us a 66% APR because now we're looking at the most recent volume data, what's up to speed basically, as opposed to looking at a 30-day timeline and having inaccurate data. If 66% suits, we're going to save it to our portfolio, move on, and start to simulate another position. I'll go over that very quickly, do a speed run over here on Ethereum to Aether. I set my deposit amount. Typically, I'm doing $10,000. Look at the volume history. This is declining over time. It shows average of 520K. Recently, we're 200K, 450K, so on and so forth. I'm going to do my range, which I would start with the 30-day high and the 30-day low. I'm going to look at the trend. It's clearly going up, which means that Aether is underperforming Ethereum, but recently it has been consolidating. So again, that means that we want to have room for both, right? Probably going to go with 50-50 here, basically, but we'll put our max price at 83,000. We'll put our min price at something like 57,000, and we can even up that to 57,500 or 58,000 if we want a little bit more Ethereum, just because of the current trend. And then from there, we adjust that to a calculation range of, let's just say 14 days, because that looks like more accurate data. That brings our average daily volume to 450K, which is what we did over here, and more consistent, showing that we're doing a 197% APR. Now, before we dive into these positions, we're always validating them. Like, what happens if Aether jumps up, say, to 5 cents in a day? That's plus 30%, and Ethereum doesn't change. Well, we need 20 days to cover that divergence loss. But what happens if Ethereum were to go up to $2,800? So Ethereum goes up a little bit, Aether goes up a lot. Well, we need 16 days to cover that opportunity cost divergence loss, right? And that's not that bad because it's not likely that Aether will jump that much in a day. It'll most likely happen over a couple days, and we'll be in this position long enough while it's chopping to be able to outweigh that divergence loss. But basically, whenever I click save to portfolio, it brings me over to the build page basically, because now I could see all the positions that I have saved to this portfolio, and I could start to look at overall performance. And as you can see, I have a bunch of different liquidity pools saved over here, and it shows a $121,000 allocation, 7.5% per month. That's doing 95% APR, which is $312 per day. That hits us at nearly that 100% APR target. Keep in mind, these are a bunch of random pools that I was finding off video, basically stuff that I've just saved here. Point is, Metrics Finance will aggregate all of this under one dashboard. And then from there, if we want to deploy into it, all we have to do is open up these pools. We know exactly how much we need to deploy into them. So we would hit create position. That's going to take us over to Uniswap, where we can select V3 position, and then we could select ETH and Link basically. Type in these assets, select our fee tier, make sure it matches up the 0.3% fee tier, and actually get deployed by just adjusting our range and entering the amount of assets that we need. Simple as that. And then from there, when the time comes to actually track your portfolio, you can track that directly on Metrics Finance by just entering in your wallet address right over here. It's going to show you your overall performance, like your profit loss, your profit compared to if you're holding in the market, your overall earnings, your APR, exactly like you can see here. And guys, I have multiple wallet addresses, which is why there's only a $22,000 allocation here. Right now, I have about $50,000 allocated to DeFi as a whole currently. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and found a bunch of value in it. Once again, let me know what types of videos you guys want to see down below in the description, and let me know that you enjoyed by dropping a sub. If you guys need support within the implementation of this, my team are experts at it. We've done it over 200 times with over 200 different people. We've done this in our own portfolios as well, and I'm happy to work one-on-one with you. There's a link right below this video if you guys do want to check that out. No pressure whatsoever. Again, we believe in giving away the most value possible, and then if you want to implement with us, work with us, make your life easier, and maybe lose less money from mistakes, then that's where we come into play. I'll see you guys in the next video though. Peace out.